Welcome to Looking into Literature, where we discuss the intricacies of powerful narratives and how they reflect on our lives. All narratives contain metatemporal messages. This is apparent in dystopian fiction, an exaggeration of human flaws spiraling out of control, such as the two cautionary tales of film noir Blade Runner Director's Cut by Ridley Scott in 1992 and postmodern Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro in 2005. Highlight the resilience of through mediums such as relationships or personal purpose against the oppressive force orders of magnitude large. Both pieces raise a larger philosophical question as to what makes us human. With an open-ended and interpretive answer, the pieces provide scenarios that push the boundaries morally. Do we think that the qualities of self-expression, relationships, and morality are human qualities? These pieces highlight the worst of human nature, our self-serving desires and greed, such as from the Reaganism and Thatcherism contexts, catalyzing the corrupt capitalism and oligarchies fueled by the advancements in genetic engineering, blurring the line in human exploitation. Blade Runner and Never Let Me Go portray a bleak reality with harsh power dynamics between the rich and exploited through New Age colonialism. This has been enabled by the advancements in technology being able to produce humans artificially. While this technically is possible in real life, such as experiments of Dolly the sheep in 1996, this technology has not been implemented yet due to ethical concerns. This integrity is not present in Blade Runner or Never Let Me Go, as set on the exposition of Blade Runner, exaggerating the flaws of humanity with the opening scene's visual imagery, with overtuned industrialization being representative of the attitudes of the society of Blade Runner, neglecting the Earth's resources. Also, with these hubristic needs above others, is symbolized by Tyrell's huge glasses and his myopic vision, blinded to the value of life. In Never Let Me Go, the unadulterated conditioning of the clones is presented in a slow but confronting pace of Kathy's narrative. Your lives are set out for you. You'll become adults, and before you're even middle-aged, you'll start to donate your vital organs. That's what each of you were created to do. This oppressive dehumanizing of the character acts as an allegorical tool, bringing to light our own corrupt practices. Ridley Scott and Kazuo Ishiguro expose our flaws, and the exploitation that is evident today, such as modern slavery and organ trafficking. This exploitation is compounded by the conditioning by institutions to control their resources. For Blade Runner, the Voight-Kampff test, a way to differentiate between the replicants and normal people, this symbolizes the essence of the conflict and surveillance, as the replicants are not seen as human, causing the replicants such as Leon to question his identity. The Voight-Kampff tests were used in an attempt to control the replicants by monitoring their behavioral changes, but in the case of Leon and the other replicants, others them in this form of an itch, which symbolizes the neglect brought about by the dehumanizing by Tyrell. This contrasts with the almost institutional control in Never Let Me Go, the psychological manipulation and grooming of the clones into obedient submission. You've been told about it. You're students. You're special. The euphemistic language calling them special is incredibly coercive, deceiving them to think that they have value. This is used as leverage by the institutions to pacify the clones and prevent direct conflict and rebellion. Never Let Me Go's atmosphere has a much more sinister and subtle evil than that of Blade Runner's rather confrontational oppression. These forms of conflict ultimately nurture hope, as it is in human nature to try and find purpose in life. This brings into question whether they are human, possessing complex ontological purposes to find meaning through actions beyond the institutions confining them. Roy Batty, a replicant who spent most of his end of his life aiming to extend it, found an appreciation and a hope for that society could see the same, with his eyes, so to speak. The allusions to Christ with the doves and the nails through Roy's stigmata symbolizes his hope that the sins of humanity may be redeemed, with the purpose of his final actions to hope for a humanity free from the sins oppressing the replicants, to value the preciousness of life, with his acts of salvation for Deckard. This inherent value for life held by those who have struggled is further highlighted in Never Let Me Go, with Kathy's memoir. What I'm not sure about is if our lives have been so different from the lives of people we save. We're all complete. Maybe none of us really understand what we've lived through, or feel we've had enough time. This rhetorical questioning demonstrates the value of life, for experiences ultimately are what life is made up of. This manifested for Kathy as a way for her to care for those close to her, Ruth and Tommy. Despite the restrictions of the institutions, she hoped that she could improve the lives of Ruth and Tommy, leaving the memoir as a legacy of their friendship. This differentiates from Roy's hope, as it does not culminate into explicit actions against the institution, but is more internal. This also demonstrates to us as the audience how Ridley Scott and Kazuo Ishiguro hope that humanity might find great appreciation for life, not to be caught up in pursuit of financial or self-serving gains. This also brings us back to the greater philosophical question, what makes us human, as humanity is found within our hopes brought about by conflict, obviously not always to such an extreme as Blade Runner or Never Let Me Go. Both Ridley Scott and Kazuo Ishiguro's cautionary tales bring into question the human nature, our unique emotions, relationships, and drives. These unchecked practices can culminate as in Blade Runner and Never Let Me Go, with prioritizing self-serving advancements, disregarding the cost and value of life. However, within this persecution, hope is found through the innate human characteristics to find self-control and purpose. Thank you for listening.